Lieutenant Pete Maverick Mitchell will return in Thunderball. Oh, that was weird. Hello, my friends, and welcome back to the Review Den. And hey, remember that time Maverick went up against the Moonraker shuttle to save the world from laser weapons, then partied with Roger Moore on the USS America? Remember that? Okay, well maybe I'm misremembering a little, but the point is, we're on to the next NES Top Gun game. Top Gun: The Second Mission. Yes, Konami was back in 1989. Boy, remember when they actually made video games? With their second licensed Top Gun game on the NES, and while this one seems a bit less known compared to the original, it has some neat updates and ideas that make for a more dynamic experience. Is it better than the original? Well, yes and no. Let's get into it to talk about the specifics. Top Gun: The Second Mission follows the basic formula of the original. This is a first-person, into-the-screen flight arcade game with an emphasis on taking down enemies and avoiding their missiles. The action comes at you harder and faster than the original, there's no big pauses in the action, and the refueling and landing have been pared down and simplified to make room for better boss sequences and variety in the form of dueling aces and navigating hazards. The biggest change, though, is in the basic gameplay itself. To start with, your flight is no longer restricted to a tunnel of action. You can turn a full 360 degrees to dogfight with enemies. Top Gun 1 had the usual arcade-style enemies, which either pass you from behind or head-on. You took out who you could, but once they were gone, they were gone. But in Second Mission, the enemies can loop around and keep fighting, so you engage everything in a pseudo 3D space. You'll have to deal with threats from all angles, especially enemy aces, and dodging missiles becomes a whole new battle. While I mentioned that in the first game you needed to watch your hitbox and keep enemy shots out of there, here the key is keeping your eyes glued to the radar. You'll get missiles from behind and the sides quite often, so it's best to watch this as you play. Orange or red dots mean missiles, so start dodging the moment you see them. And hey, you now have afterburners for an extra burst of speed. The weapons are all on the B button, hold for rapid fire, double tap for missiles, so the A button is now a speed boost, which is super useful for dodging those shots and tussling with the baddies. You're now able to loop around vertically, so you can do the whole "I was inverted" thing, but it doesn't treat it as if you've actually changed direction, so it's not very useful. But you can barrel roll, which sometimes keeps you alive, so that's cool. The only downside to all this extra freedom is it's restricted to air-to-air parts of the game. We wouldn't see rotating sprites until a generation later, so anytime you have objects on the ground, the game conveniently reverts back to just banking and sliding around. But that does bring us to the variety that the game offers. Top Gun 2 offers only 3 campaign missions, but they're broken up into several types or stages in each one. Air-to-air sections play out like most Afterburner-style games. You'll face enemies both ahead and behind, but with the added 360-degree freedom, they'll sometimes stick around with you for a few seconds to try a second attack before breaking off. Just survive through the waves and you'll move on. Then there are the duels. Occasionally you'll get a warning about an enemy at 12 o'clock, use combat skills, and here you're locked into combat with an enemy ace. It's possible to take them out in the initial merge, in fact you'd better hope you do, because if you miss you're forced into an all-out dogfight with the computer. And believe me, this is tough. Enemy aces are experts at staying on your tail, and you'll have to constantly dodge and adjust your speed to stay alive, let alone get them in your sights long enough for a kill shot. There's a reason you want to take them out as soon as possible. If you wind up in a proper tussle, it's hard to come out on top. Next up are the ground attack sections, and like I said earlier, your movement is restricted here, so try to get these over with quickly. You'll face tanks and submarines in these sections, and both they and enemy planes will be shooting missiles at you, so you'll be up against it. Ground targets must be destroyed to move on with a mission, so try to take them out in the first pass rather than waiting for a second or third. Mission 2 and 3 also feature hazard sections where you'll be dodging through low-level trees or lightning storms, and these too are tough. The biggest thing here is not to overcorrect. Once you see an obstacle, make a quick turn and hope for the best. It's a very cool idea, especially in Mission 3, but you can eat up your 3 lives with some plain bad luck, so try to go easy on those controllers, Ace. Best part of the game though, and I never thought I'd say that, I usually hate these, are the boss fights. The first game had end stage bosses that were these tiny little sprites, but here you get huge screen-filling bosses that you need to dismantle piece by piece, and it is awesome. I actually wish the game had more of these instead of the other sections. You really feel like you're going up against some big monstrosities here, and it was pretty clever of Konami to use what I think are big moving backgrounds rather than sprites. Definitely the highlights of the game. Defeat a boss and you're rewarded with a thankfully much easier landing scene. Just keep the speed at 288 and aim somewhere at the front of the ship and you'll touch down no problem. The rest of the game is pretty brutal in difficulty, but at least you don't have to worry about crashing into the ocean this time.
Doing fine.
But oh, did I mention that you still only get 3 lives for the entire game? Again? Yeah, don't go planning those victory laps right away. For content, second mission has 3 main missions and some bonus duels. Mission 1 sees you over the ocean, taking out submarines before battling a Tu-160 Blackjack bomber. The enemies rarely shoot here, so use it as a chance to learn the game and controls. Mission 2 has you pounding tanks and dodging through trees to reach an advanced helicopter, and yeah, everything goes straight to 100 here. You'll have to dodge plenty of enemy shots, and that forest section is brutal. Finally, Mission 3 has you over the Arctic, taking on swarms of enemies as well as dodging satellite weapons on your way to defeat a laser-armed space shuttle. Be still, my sci-fi loving heart. Like most arcade games, this can be finished in one setting, but the difficulty is just so high, even reaching Stage 3 is a Herculean effort. Still, the game offers some bonus dogfights in the duel mode, hence the Japanese title Top Gun 2, The Duel Fighters. There's 7 top-level ace fights, and even a split-screen option if that's your thing. Really though, the main game is the focus here, and honestly there's some cool updates Konami added. Flight is more dynamic, even if the emphasis is still arcade reflexes. The bosses are better, the landings are easier, and there's fewer gaps in the action. The duel and hazard sections are probably a net negative, but audio visuals get a few neat tricks. Overall, I think it's a nice update over the first game, but it does involve a bit of a learning curve now, which may not be to everyone's taste. There's something to be said for an arcade-style game you just instinctively understand from the get-go, but there would still be plenty of chances for new takes on the formula for Top Gun. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed a look at one of the lesser-known games of the franchise, and if you'd like to help a small channel grow, would you be my next subscriber? I'll be back next time with another review, but no matter what, be sure to keep going, because you are worth it.